Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to Karate Without Belts. I'm John, and joined by internet darling, Micah and Jon.
That's a new title. Nice to be back. Thank you.
I was thinking about it and going back on it. I was like, yeah, you were on last year
Yeah.
around this time.
Oh, was it? Has it been a year already?
Almost. I think maybe it was like early-ish February.
Shoot. I haven't realized it was so long.
Right. Well, because, recent times and all that. Well, we don't need to talk about any of that because we're just going to chill and talk about Karate Kid 2.
Mhm.
Now, I have harassed Micah to come on and talk about this a bit too much, and I first apologize
And I'm
about
sorry
that.
it took me so long to to get around to talking with you about it.
Well, and I think we kind of hit the nail on the head with the whole Cobra Kai thing. So I think timing wise, I think it's fine.
Mhm.
Can we play one on you and say what movie you initially watched?
So I thought it was on Netflix, and the only Karate Kid that was on Netflix was the next Karate Kid. So I figured it says next in it, so it must be the second one. And then I watched most of it. Like, they're not going to Okinawa. Like, what is this?
How much of
So
it did you watch?
I watched like 3/4 of it. I was just waiting for them to take a plane to Okinawa, and it never happened.
So you really didn't ever watch Karate Kid before this?
No, I did, but it's just been so long. It's been
So you
probably
flip the
over
genders of
20
the main
years.
character.
Yeah.
uh,
I remembered nothing from the second movie.
how long ago would you say you initially watched those two films? Like
I
were they like in the background when you were a kid, or?
Yeah, like 20 plus years ago, probably is the last time I watched it, I want to say.
Yeah, I watched the first one when I was like just started karate, and my mom had got it for me and was like, you start karate. This is a movie, and I was like, hey, this is a pretty good movie. Didn't know there was a second one or a third one or a fourth one until I was in college.
Oh,
And back in the day when like everyone could dump things on YouTube and nobody gave a crap, I like watched the whole thing in like one night. I watched all three.
I
Um,
would watch them whenever they played on TV. And
okay.
I think I saw the first three on
I never had
TV, but
cable.
that was a long time ago. Oh, that's why. Yeah, I saw them on cable TV.
Yeah, everyone thinks that cable was for the TV shows and it was for the movies. Yeah, and it never really aired on network television.
Mm.
They aired a lot of Rocky, they aired a lot of violence, but they never aired this. Well, I wanted to ask you, and because when I initially pitched this to you, I looked at this and it was like false ethnography,
That's right. Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know if that was right or not to even think about it because I hadn't seen it in a while. And I just remembered parts of it, and then I was like, that's kind of hokey, and maybe that's wrong. I don't know. And I guess looking at the film overall, what's your? I guess we can go with like overall impressions of starting with that question: is Karate Kid 2 a false ethnography?
Yeah, I think that's a interesting term. I don't know how to address that term just yet, but I think it's a good starting place because watching Karate Kid 2, like I said, 20 something years later, it did seem like um, like a hodgepodge of different Japanese elements thrown together in Hawaii, um, as like the setting, and like watching it as an adult, it was just this get by. Like this wouldn't be okay. Oh
Well,
shoot.
I would say the answer to your question of how did this get by was the 80s.
Yep.
But let's unpack some of that because you hit it quite right on the head. What did you think? What stood out to you the most as what's the what? Why are they making this? What's going on?
um, I guess at first when they arrive in Okinawa, the setting, I was like, is this really Okinawa? And then I saw like the mountains in the background, and those are like, if you're from Hawaii or have ever like visited Hawaii, they're very recognizably the mountains on Oahu. Um, and like even some of the islands in the background, I was like, I was just there the other weekend. Like, this is clearly not Okinawa, and Okinawa doesn't have mountains like this either. Like if you've
No.
been to Okinawa too, um, so that was one thing that really stood out. Like you just can't choose a tropical place and say it's Okinawa.
So the excuse apparently for doing that, I'm not sure if there was like Hollywood tax reasons or something like that, but the excuse for doing that was like there's American military bases there right now. It doesn't look anything like that. When in the movie, they literally say, "Oh, this is an American military base here. The village isn't here anymore."
Yep.
You literally wrote it into the script. And I guess we can break down the plot, but it's one of my favorite parts of the movie where it's just like they pulled like just people off of set of a different movie and be like, "Sarge, where's Tommy Village? He's standing on it, Corporal." I just love that part because it's just like, oh yeah, this is what these guys know how to do. They're really putting it on, trying their best, like they're blind men in a room trying to figure out what this culture is. But the moment they like step onto like white dude Americans who are screaming in the military, they know exactly what to do. So we can start by breaking down the plot. So it starts last time on Karate Kid. They had the whole tournament. This movie seems to do a pretty good recap of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well you remembered that one. It follows in suit with the Rocky movies where they have to do a recap of the last movie to catch you up. So, what did you think of the opening scene?
Where they just reviewed the first movie?
Yeah, but like when they like come out of the tournament and
oh, the nose thing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's how they would begin and end the movie. Great foreshadowing.
Yes. It's also it's the defeat of both signature villains of the franchise by just going.
Yep.
Apparently this was supposed to be filmed. There was in the script there was supposed to be like there was some change. Apparently there was supposed to be a Webster Miyagi, and it was supposed to be more like that was Sato, and he had come to America to seek revenge or something.
Oh.
Yeah, and so this was apparently that elements of that were still there, and that's why it was still set in the States. That's why it didn't just start 6 months later. So, but it goes with this theme of forgiveness, which I think. Do you feel this is something of an insert as a plot, or do you feel this is a theme they're trying to carry on from lessons learned from culture?
It does seem like it's a overarching theme of the movies, but I don't know if you can say it's from culture necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it might be. I guess because I watched the next Karate Kid, which is what, the fourth movie or something, and they go to a Buddhist monastery instead of Okinawa. Like maybe like elements
which is just walking more into the room blindly of just like we know about Asian culture, which is kind of even worse. But to back into that, because there's the other themes of shame, revenge, and this big thing here is honor. Honor gets brought up a lot, and I felt that's like kind of samurai stuff.
Yeah. Yes. It seems that way to me as well.
And I was wondering, what did you think? Did you think that was you have a lot better interaction with with culture of this culture than I do. I'll just break this capsule open. All of the English that is supposedly Japanese, but in English, like when all of the Japanese, supposedly Okinawan Japanese speakers are speaking English, when they talk about honor and revenge and all this other stuff, Do you feel this is a conversation real Okinawans would have with each other?
I don't like a lot of those conversations that were like, would these really happen if they were being spoken in Japanese or in Okinawa and Chinaguchi?
Yeah,
I don't know. And what did you mention? Honor and
in like
like
revenge and
revenge,
shame and
shame. I think shame is pretty powerful, especially in like culturally,
mm.
and that's kind of appropriate. I don't know about revenge though. That seemed like very like made for the movie type of thing to make a good villain.
Honor.
But
I mean, especially like I guess maybe the '80s were different because people were still coming off post-war, but honor. I'm a little head scratchy on that one entirely.
yeah, honor seems more like you said, like samurai or even Chinese, like Mulan
Yeah,
kind of
or
mentality.
what is it? I think it's like face. I think is probably a better term
Yeah,
for
face.
this.
Hmm.
But just a Japanese person saying like, "You dishonored me, and I will kill you if you dishonor me again." Yeah.
I mean that again, maybe feudal Japan. I don't know about Okinawa. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I really don't feel like this would be the conversation they would be having. Even Miyagi's premise. Let's go to that because what's Miyagi's premise? He tells Daniel why he came to the States is to or why he left Okinawa because he was going against a prearranged marriage.
yeah,
A prearranged marriage in Okinawa, maybe a thing.
yeah. I don't know. Possibly. Um,
It feels very like I know there's Miyai,
yeah.
but that's completely different.
Mm,
And I don't know, in the 20s, did they do that a lot? Or in the 30s or 40s? They screw around with the time a little because Miyagi says, 1927, I learned how to fish with my dad. It's 1985. Do the math.
yeah.
It's Cobra Kai kind of they showed it when he was born, 1925. So that means he was 2 when he went out on learning to
I learned how to
fish.
fish.
So I guess we're closing the plot hole of like Miyagi being 80 in the 80s by doing that, but at the same time, it's like, do you feel that's even natural?
I mean, thinking about like the immigrants to Hawaii who came in the early 1900s, even late 1800s, I think there was a lot of that kind of thing, like arranged marriage or like picture brides. I guess that's in a sense arranged, but definitely a lot more input from your elders, like your parents, grandparents, in finding a partner. So this idea of marrying for love and even his conversations with Yukie, like and all of the lovey language they used together, I was like, this does not seem very Asian to me, and
No.
like saying like I love you and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, they had. All right, we're going to charge our way through this. We're going to charge our way through this. uh, one thing that stuck out to me though is that there was a lot of like kimono culture, like in the
mm,
background. Like when they get off the airport, they're like in Okinawa. There's just a bunch of women running around in kimonos, and at the same time, you have a bunch of like 1980s businessmen,
yeah. Mhm.
and it just feels like they just that's one of the biggest things where it's like, oh yeah, kimono, that's Japanese, and ergo Okinawan. And what do you think is a? I feel like the like a lot of the bingata could have been put in. There's a lot of things where they could have put stuff in there that they didn't.
Yeah. And then I I guess this kind of jumps to the Cobra Kai episodes, but I watched those too to just see how Okinawa was represented.
Hmm.
And then I noticed like Bingata in the background
Mm-hmm.
in Cobra Kai. So I was like, that's a really nice addition. And watching Karate Kid 2, like you said, they're all in kimono. And during that final scene at the bone dance, like
Yeah.
that is a very Japanese thing. That is not Okinawan. Like in Okinawa, obon is Asa,
Yeah.
not dancing in a circle. Like that is very Japanese kind of thing. And then they're all in kimono. And if it's in Okinawa in the middle of summer, why are they all in kimono? And even in that scene, like in the background, you see shamisen players,
Yes.
not
Which
fanshin players, but shamisen players. I'm like, this is so off.
so let's break this down for our audience that may not know what the differences between these things are. What is it, sanshin? What is it, shamisen?
So both are 3-string instruments.
Kind of like a banjo, I guess.
But yeah, like a Japanese banjo or Okinawan banjo. And it so the wait, I keep mixing them up. Shamisen. So the shamisen is the Japanese instrument, and it has a very long neck.
Right.
And it came into Japan through Okinawa, and that's why it changed. Whereas in Okinawa, it's called the sanshin, which literally translates to 3 strings. And in Okinawa, it's shorter, and the strings are different, the sound is different, the way you play it is different. And this instrument originally came from China, so from China to Okinawa to Japan, and in each place it's a little bit different. Right. So yeah, they have the same origin, but it's become very different instruments and very different styles of playing.
And they when even within the Ryukyu Islands, there's a difference.
Yes.
There's 2 kids we're very proud of right now and have demonstrated for us.
Yep.
That's a different conversation for a different time. But yeah, but there is sanshin here in this movie. The old dude. So when they first get to Tone, we kind of jumping around the movie. So that's fine. If you haven't seen this movie, Karate Kid 2, that's 35 years old. Sorry, spoilers, I guess. But the when they're walking, and I guess hold up. Try to ask you about, because I feel this is wrong, but I don't have the linguistic skills to prove it. That's not right.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
And then they cut over to the other side, and that's definitely not right.
Yeah, that one, Mr. Miyagi was definitely joking around with the rules.
Yes, and because the kanji is right, but the placement of it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are we talking about? Sorry, I guess we got to get back into the podcast. But we'll just let this play in the background. So, when they're talking about, they're saying that what's the rule number 1? Karate is for self-defense. Rule number 2 is remember rule number 1. It's a call to karate ni sentai nashi. Basically saying there's no first attack in karate, but there's no kana there. It's just kanji. Mm-hmm. So I guess it makes it look cooler, but it doesn't really work, I guess.
I mean, is it
boom
a phrase? Because you just said what it was. Is that a phrase in karate?
Yes, it's a well-known phrase.
It was written in 4 kanji, right?
Right. Hold on. Let me go there, sanshin. Let me go back to that.
Yeah, it's 4 kanji. Those are called yoji jukugo, I think, right, is the term. So it is okay to have kanji phrases like that written in 4 Chinese characters. And they do have meaning on their own like that. But the way Mr. Miyagi explained it is not like as it was written.
So it doesn't need to be necessarily linguistically correct.
It doesn't have to have like hiragana or whatever in it. Because they do have those kinds of phrases in Japanese that are kind of common. I don't know if not necessarily common knowledge, but they're kind of like expressions. Like they're known as being 4 character expressions.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you have because they're trying to stick Nisente Nash here. I don't know if you can see my
Like,
mouse moving, but in the but the I can see from the country what they're trying to say, but
mhm.
I don't want to be like, well, they got it wrong. They probably got it right, but it how you're right. The way he's explaining it, it's jokey because it's Pat Morita, and Pat Morita is an American treasure, and we gotta let him. We gotta let him riff. Gotta let him joke. So I guess it works. But anyway, yeah, there's sunshine in here.
I must have missed that. I didn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't take.
but it is brief. It is way too brief, and they missed it. And they missed that part of it entirely. Okay, so I guess we can plot on from that. So you want to talk about Sato and how do you feel about his character and how him and Chosen are kind of do you feel the representative of the time?
It's really hard to say. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like they were portraying these Okinawan dudes as being like gangsters and like bad kids.
Well, and
with
Sato,
with
a funny note is Sato actually has three businesses. Sato has a karate business. Sato has his, I guess, lumber business, whatever, and he also has an escort service.
I didn't realize there was a
He,
third one.
well, it's just hidden there on the sign when they come into the airport. Sato escorts.
Oh,
So this guy's in
oh,
charge
I
of a
think
snack
I caught
bar.
that.
Of course he would be because
And
why wouldn't he? Do you feel
yeah,
the whole
I mean,
part? I don't know the whole him like them going into the village and then like fucking up their crops, and then he comes back and like just plows over their crops. And apparently, this one village only has like 12 square inches where they plant food. Apparently, um, but like, do you feel like that? And then like the whole they cheated them out of money because they screwed around with the scales. You feel there's any credence for that?
I this would have been in occupied Okinawa, right? I don't that
Well, this would 1985. So we're still, I mean,
so
technically
just
still
half.
occupied.
Yeah,
So
I don't.
we're 12, 13 years after reunification,
Yeah,
but it's still the 80s.
I mean,
So
still very poor. I don't. I mean, sure, if you're a greedy businessman, then anything's possible. I don't know if stuff like that actually happened or not, though.
I feel like they're trying to kind of characterize two things. Maybe it's like the 1980s business guy, really
Mhm.
just greed, greed, greed,
Almost
and
Yakuza like.
Yakuza
Yeah,
from Chosen's perspective,
yeah.
where he can just like go around beat the crap out of you and then force you into the some ice challenge. Uh, apparently, you're gonna. Apparently, back in 1985, $600 can pay for your college tuition
Hmm.
because that was the bet, right?
Yep,
We're jumping
that
all over the
was.
movie. Do you feel when Miyagi's father dies, when they have the funeral scene, they light the lanterns and they send them on into the river? Isn't the lantern lighting normally to to call spirits back, not to, especially for an
Yeah, I've never
Okinawan funeral?
I've never seen that done at a funeral. It's usually around like Obon where you would do something like that. So I I said before, it's like a hodgepodge of different elements of Japanese culture, and that seems like one of those things that they stuck in because it's it's Japanese and it makes a pretty scene to look at.
Right.
I don't know if it's the most authentic in terms of when and why it occurred though.
Well, for a
And I'm not sure if
funeral,
Okinawa does that for their
yeah.
funerals. Yeah.
Well, so not even for a funeral and not even Okinawa.
Yeah.
What did you think of the map painting for what I guess is not Shuri Castle? Or I guess this is a mix of Shuri Castle and Katsuran, or one of the other castles that actually has like stone structure still intact. Because that's
That was
not a real place. That's a set. That was a map painting in a set.
I saw that. I was like, what is this castle? Oh my god, that was terrible.
It's also like kind of looks like a Roman Colosseum.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
But they did name check Shohashi.
Yes, they did.
So this movie keeps on doing this thing where it gets one right and then one wrong.
Yeah.
A little. Keep on going back and forth on that. What did you think of the scene where do you feel that Hawaii was the best place they could have put it, though, if they weren't going to go to Okinawa?
I think so. They definitely got the tropical vibe, and I'm sure a lot of those actors were from Hawaii because of the Asian population. So in terms of like finding actors and kind of authentic background scenes, then yes, Hawaii was probably the best place to do that.
Did you feel that what did you feel were the better parts of the representation in this movie?
Wait, I'm looking through my notes. I was taking notes as I watched it. The better parts of representation.
Or what do you felt better stuck out, or better stuck out in terms of like, well, they got that wrong, but they got this right, or they, like the example being like, yeah, Shohashi, that's not his castle, but they did name check Shohashi in a major Hollywood film. So
Daniel San's history book is still a major like Okinawan history book. I've read that book.
Okay.
I've never seen that edition because that's a really old edition, probably one of the first editions.
Yeah, Micah is like 30 years younger than me, so I
I don't know. There was a lot that I was like, what is going on here? I think the fact that they had a typhoon was in summer is appropriate. Just the typhoon coming out of nowhere was kind of, they missed that.
Okay, you want to talk about the lead up and that scene?
What was the lead up? Oh, there was the tea ceremony with Kimiko and Daniel.
Yeah.
And then
is the tea ceremony supposed to be romantic?
No, I don't. I've never heard that before.
Or even private?
Because
it happens twice in the movie.
It does. Yeah.
Is it supposed to be like between lovers?
If it is, that's the first I've ever heard of it. I really don't think it is, though. I've never heard that before. And I was like, what is this when I was watching it? Plus, that seems like that's not like tea ceremony with matcha. It's not even Okinawan. So, what?
But it was a nice sentiment, I guess.
Yeah.
They tried.
Those Japanese aesthetics. Yeah, and then so in that scene, like you see out the window, right, in the background, that is very clearly Hawaii. And then they kiss, and then the wind blows out the candle or something, and she's like, oh, this is a bad omen or something. And then the storm comes.
She has typhoon sense.
Yep.
And then suddenly everyone's running away like they're evacuating the village.
Because the bell is ringing.
Yeah.
And it's a little girl who is responsible for warning the entire village that there's a typhoon coming. And they all evacuate without taking her with them.
The typhoon.
That's my favorite part of the movie, I think.
Because there wouldn't be like 5 Obajans being like, get down from her.
Right?
And they just leave her up there.
They really do.
Well, this constitutes one of 2 plot holes in the movie, because I guess the other lead up is that like Miyagi's gonna fight Sato, and he knows he's gonna fight Sato, and Sato's gonna come, like they're gonna fight. So he like gives his will to Daniel in this weird scroll, and he has like a kimono on for some reason. And then Daniel's like, well, I'm going to go on a date with Kumiko. And they have the tea ceremony, and then the typhoon comes. They leave the little girl up there, and then everyone runs into the. Do you feel these are good representations of Okinawan houses?
I don't know what they would have been like at the time. I have no idea.
But then it's like Sato apparently was in one of these houses that falls on him.
Yep.
Isn't he like boss man? Wouldn't he have like a 5-story building in Naha or something to be saying?
He owns all the land, right?
He owns all the land. Like, what the hell is he doing there?
In like the flimsiest, like one of the only houses that fell.
And we saw in a scene earlier, he had like a mansion by the sea and like a manservant.
So many questions.
Well, anyway, and so that goes to do you feel it's a little white savior for Daniel to being like, I'll climb up there and get you. Hold on. I'm a student of karate, therefore I can climb this thing during the typhoon.
I didn't think of it as white savior, but I guess it could be. It's like, why did no one else help her? So yeah,
sure. Everyone like running back and forth into the house as if that house was the sturdiest thing the whole village had. Do you think Chosen's attitude? A lot of people make the 1980s Japanese kids in the 1980s out to be like the wild generation. Do you feel that would have been the appropriate attitude at that time, or just like a young guy?
Chosen.
Yeah, Chosen's like, I'm the greatest. I'm the best. Da 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 da. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna steal your money. I'm gonna run around Naha like Yakuza.
It does like fashion wise and stuff. I think they got that pretty spot on. But I don't like. He's basically the mob boss's son. So like I would think like if you looked at other Yakuza groups, they would have acted that way.
I think we're probably 20 years out from everybody dressing up in a suit and standing outside a Family Mart. So, okay, so that's the one scene, and then I guess this was like Sato's like. So Sato goes from being like stereotypical 1980s angry businessman wanting revenge. He gets saved by Miyagi because Miyagi manages to do the ha against the tree because I guess he was attacked by a tree. So we have that full circle, and then he becomes Scrooge apparently. Like he's Okinawan Scrooge. He goes from being like that guy to like cool uncle because he has the little like gangsta handshake with Daniel. When they're like, I'm going to rebuild. I'm here to help. You have to come dance with us. If we have Obon there forever. Yay! The whole village just goes, yay! And it just feels like they're inserting stuff that they want to happen, but just would never happen, I feel.
Yeah, that was the feeling I got too. Insert as many things to make it seem like that you can.
What did you think of the ending scene?
The ending fight or like the ending bone dance?
So there's the bone dance, and then there's the supposed like fan dance she's gonna do, and then Chosen swings in like Batman, and the whole setup there. Just what did you think of that? Because we talked a little bit about how bone doesn't work like that in Okinawa at all. And why they're having it in Roman Coliseum, not Shurijo. And that dance that she's doing doesn't seem like Ryukyu Oldori.
I know there's fan dances in Ryukyu Buyo, which is the traditional dance, like the really slow one.
Right.
But that's not what she's doing. And in the middle, like there's the two. Are they Shisa or are they like? I don't know.
I guess that's
if they're Shisa or not.
It's an approximation.
Yeah, it's close, but I don't know That's right. And yeah, like the music was off. I think, oh, one thing that they did get right for the music was when she was teaching Daniel the dance and she was humming
I know the
an
songs.
Okinawan song. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but
I got
that
you.
was
It's
yeah.
Tinsuga Nuhana.
Oh yeah. Tinsagu no Hana.
Ah,
Tinsagu no Hana. Yeah.
because that's weird Romanji,
Yeah.
right? So
Oh,
she's humming that, and when she's teaching the kids, like it seems like that seems pretty authentic.
yeah, that was like that was good choice of Okinawan song. But then fast forward to the bone dance, where's that song? I
Yeah,
don't know.
and then what is it? I guess one point I can kind of somewhat identify with Daniel is talking to a girl, Japanese girl in a rural island and having a bunch of kids coming up and laughing at you. I can identify with that. Did you like how he kept on trying to do colloquialisms and she not get it?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we can take it on the road. What do you mean we're on the road?
Yep. Yeah.
Although I'm not sure what 17-year-old makes the euphemism of free agent for "Are you single?"
Right. Free agent.
Free agent. What? And this comes back. And we'll get to the Cobra Kai part. What do you think of the chosen fight? Did you feel like that? Like the whole village just basically stating like, uh, I've lost my honor because of you, and I have to prove it to the whole village by threatening to kill this girl with a knife and then beating and then trying to kill you.
I, I don't think that would get his honor back, to be honest. Uh, I don't
And
know.
again, like
This whole honor plot kind of seems like the typical Asian kind of martial arts story plot, like this idea of honor and getting it back.
yeah, and I guess if we go back to face and like something that's actually a thing in a lot of these cultures, and comes out in different ways. How in any way is killing an innocent woman or killing a dude who he didn't even kick his ass? Like he just happened to save his uncle, and then he ran away from saving a little screaming girl.
Yep.
Like
Like
he
that is
doesn't.
not how you get redemption.
Yeah,
Threatening an unarmed dancer and then Daniel-san, who's like the guest of the village. Like, what was he thinking?
eh, well, what's funny is I do like how Daniel is like, I don't want to do this, but then the Miyagi's like, this is for real, and uh, this is the weird setup of it, and then all right, toss the bridge, man, let her go, lets her go. And this is why Kumiko. This is why this. I think this is the Empire Strikes Back of Karate Kid because it's the second one. It's the best one because you get this. It's kind of less sad than Empire Strikes Back, but it's much better in terms of the first one. Like Allie, his girlfriend, then really didn't do anything. She's just like, oh, I'm the blonde girl. All the boys fight over. In this one, she's like, you fucking came after me with a knife. I'm gonna choke you. And like she actually like helps Daniel in the fight. Tries to kill him.
Yeah.
Did you notice in the end how both Daniel and her have opposite eye injuries?
I did not notice that.
So she has like a scar on her. She got like a bruise on her left eye, and then he like has a bunch of blood dripping down his right eye. I thought that was good visual paralleling, but
I noticed they both had injuries. I didn't realize they were on opposite eyes, though.
Yeah, it's something you I don't know, after looking at it a couple times you catch. I just been watching parts on repeat for the last 2 days, trying to catch stuff. But I guess the only other thing I've got is like, what did you think of it on the whole? I guess after going through some of those details, um, do you think if there's a way to redeem this on its own, and then we'll get to Cobra Kai, how would we spin this to anybody who watches this now?
That's a great question, and it's a very difficult one. I think, like, as a child when I watched this, I I didn't catch a lot of these things, and like I didn't even realize it was filmed in Hawaii since I'm not from the island of Oahu. So like the scenery wasn't even recognizable to me. So like little kid me thought like, sure, this is Okinawa, but adult me, like having been to Okinawa, having like living on Oahu now, I'm like, there's so much that is wrong with this movie. But I don't, it's such like a cultural treasure. Like I don't, so I don't know like how to reconcile those things. Like I don't, there's no way this movie would have been made today. Like definitely not, but it does have a role in our popular culture, and I think it should be respected in that sense.
Right.
And I really think that Cobra Kai is fixing some of those issues. If
Right.
that's a good segue point.
Right. So I mean, if so, do you feel those two? Because I know I kind of rewatched those episodes. I'm like, damn it, Micah. If Micah hasn't watched any Cobra Kai, he's going to see a lot of like plot elements. That he's just... What did you think the plot elements that didn't had nothing to do with Okinawa? Did that make sense to you?
The like the,
Everything else that wasn't Daniel
that
going
wasn't
to
in Okinawa.
yeah.
Oh, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, because I was watching those two episodes and was like, oh, well, I guess Micah has to watch the first two seasons of Cobra Kai and then up to this point to understand anything that's going on. So I guess because we're going to do a Cobra Kai discussion later, but I guess I wanted to get to this movie first. But I guess the Doyona is the universe stand-in for Toyota, clearly.
Yeah.
And did you understand why he was in Japan?
I kind of like I watched the first episode of the first season to kind of get like an overview of what the show is kind of about and who the characters are. So I figured he was in Japan for some kind of partnership or a deal with his car.
So I should have told you to probably prefix it with just watching episode 3 because it explains. Damn it! Because now we have to re-record the podcast. No, because it basically explains that his rival had done some backroom deal, which in reality makes no sense because there's no way, like they're just like local dealerships. They're not, because he's a car dealer, and he basically stole Toyota away from him, and basically they blocked them from getting Toyotas, which I guess meant like his business would fail, but that was his excuse for the excuse to get him to go to Japan, and that's why that's why they said this is already in process, which is very Japanese. I was like, nope, we can't do anything. We already started this. But okay, so aside from, you don't really need to know any of the other plot elements. Like that's just a bunch of just disparate stuff that has nothing to do with it. Did you feel that? How do you feel about the representation now in Cobra Kai?
I think, what is her name? Tamerlan
Tomita.
Yeah, I really think that Tamerlan Tomita really did her homework and really tried to kind of make it a lot more authentic. I like when Daniel is watching her dancing with her students and she's thanking the audience. First she says arigato and then she says nife debiru, which is Okinawan for thank you. And then when she notices Daniel, she says akisamio, I think, which is also like I'm pretty sure it's the expression of like surprise or shock in Okinawa.
Oh, he said bikurishita.
That's what, yeah, kind of like bikurishita.
Which
so
means in Japanese, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
In English, it doesn't make a lot. It doesn't make a lot of sense for our viewers who don't speak that. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but in Japanese, people will say that just when they're surprised. But in English, we don't just go around saying "I'm surprised." But
I thought that was like a authentic use of the language. Some other parts seem kind of forced in like trying to incorporate Uchinaguchi, but it wasn't like too much. I think it was the right amount. And there was one line that I really enjoyed. I think this was when Chosen and Daniel were talking, and then I think Chosen is explaining that the Miyagi ancestors fought off Japanese invaders. And I was like, oh, that, yes. I'm glad they include that bit of history there. But yeah, there was like so many other like elements of Uchinaguchi, like when they're in the bar and Daniel says, come by, Kimiko says, Hari. I don't know how, like, if they say that, like, all the time, but maybe it fits with the character of Daniel visiting Okinawa and kind of the commodification of Okinawa as a travel destination.
Well, and that and I want to say Okinawa gentrification is a thing.
Yeah.
There is this and it does actually a very good job of, because we do actually get an inside look at, no, notice we just get an inside look at like Naha Airport, and
Yep.
we get a look at the taxis and like the roads around there. I'm pretty sure everything else is a set.
Yeah.
I don't know if the mountain they're on in when Chosen says goodbye to him is in Okinawa, or where they are in the mountains. Like that looks pretty authentic to me. I have no idea where that is though.
Yeah. I don't know. It does look authentic though with all the sotetsu. I don't know
Yeah,
what that is in English. That pine
plants.
kind of looking.
Yeah, so I think they did go and film some of it there, but a lot,
Yeah.
like where they're on the like Tomi Village Green or whatever. That's a stand-in for. What did you feel that was a stand-in for?
There's a lot of malls like that in Okinawa though.
Yeah.
So
What is it? Ashibina outlets.
yeah, that's one of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Where we went. I'm actually wearing the shirt when we went. I'm actually wearing the shirt from when we got that. And what is it? American Village. I think probably might be a
American
little more
Village is
accurate.
another one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I think it's a visual representation of
Yeah.
where it was. She says hi, Sai, when she's greeting him,
Mm.
which
Mhm.
I thought was really cool. She's just speaking Uchi Noguchi left and right,
Yeah.
which he wasn't doing in the movie.
Hmm.
But they didn't have any of that in the movie. But I think that kind of redeems it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like Chosen is like how they're writing Chosen. He's kind of like reverse Yoda. He's like all strict and serious, and just as a play, and then he like just goes, that's fine now. Everything's fine. He's the one guy in Okinawa who won't do day drinking.
Yep. I don't drink. Or
I
what
don't drink. Says what Okinawan guy? There's Okinawan guys who don't drink, but I mean, dressed like that. What are they doing? I don't know. What is this mall drinking during the day that Kumiko's doing with Dan? And then she's running errands after. So I feel that's kind of that's where that's where this runs into. Okay, you don't know how life works here. What did you think of her letter reading? Because she does end up reading some
I
of me.
like the letters too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I I don't remember the contents of those letters, but I remember there was Uchinaguchi in those letters too that she was reading. Like when Mr. Miyagi is writing to Yukie, he calls her my something like Wanu, and then I didn't catch it, and something Gua, which is child. Um, so that was something, and then the other one was the term for grandfather, Tanme.
Mm.
So I caught on to that. I don't remember the contents though.
Well, it was I think probably the best way for them to script wise have Miyagi say goodbye to the audience,
Mm,
because I don't think there was any way for them to do that other
yeah.
than going that way, which I think was kind of beautiful. I think Daniel's fear, because this touches on something that practically everybody who looks like me who did karate has this fear of, is that you're a foreigner, you can't learn the real art.
Mm. And that
And
comes up when Daniel is talking to Chosen, right? Chosen is like,
he,
you're a foreigner.
yeah, and he's like, Miyagi didn't show you everything. And this is real. This is a real thing that people both fear and supposedly has happened.
Mm.
I'm not gonna get too much into that, but no, that's a real thing. But the fact this is also a thing where people talk about scrolls people have of secret techniques, and I was like, you're doing this, but it's okay because Chosen. I think they close the loop on for because Daniel just says to him, "I forgive you,"
Mm-hmm.
which closes that forgiveness loop.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you like Chosen's man purse at the end?
It's very, very Japanese thing to
Yes.
have.
So
Yes.
we got that. We got that at least.
Yep.
So overall, Micah, I guess kind of to maybe tie this off a little. What did you think about this experience and looking at this and maybe kind of seeing how Okinawan cultures attempted to be portrayed in these pieces of significant pieces of cultural artifice and continued production because Cobra Kai is not stopping. Um, what did you think? Did you think this is a decent representation? It's just kind of is what it is. Do you think it gets out of what happened in the '80s, or do you feel that uh, there can be more? The ship can be better righted, as it were.
It seemed to me like a major improvement. And I do think it's good, but how they represented it seemed pretty authentic. I've only watched what 3 episodes of Cobra Kai, but like, I would be interested in watching it, and I would like to see more of Okinawa in it, because there's not many representations of Okinawa in American TV,
Yeah,
and I think this is a really something that's really special about this is that like with the writing now they are trying to be more culturally appropriate to Okinawa, like including the Bingate, including a lot of Uchinaguchi, and also like this tourism kind of shift in the economy as well, and kind of addressing that in a not not really a direct way, but it's present with the mall. So I think there's a lot that can be unpacked in future seasons if they choose to go back to Okinawa for whatever reason. Um, but
would you
yeah,
be interested in a chosen spin-off series?
I think I would watch that.
Damn straight. Because I like
Yeah.
how in that LA Times article she brings that up, and she's like, "I want a Miyagi-Do series, like where it's
Mm,
just chosen, and you can just come up with like a bunch. You could just film it in Okinawa, and you could do a lot. There's a lot that could be done with that, and even today, and you would just end up creating jobs there that you don't need Americans for and stuff. And even though I think Yuji Okamoto and Tamlin Tomita are American, and they have to kind of put on these characters to seem foreign to Americans, which I think is the biggest problem and something I always I always feel bad about because they're American. They don't that they have to put on that cultural identity, but it's also not part of that. And I don't know. As I guess one more thing, what did you think about that?
yeah, like their accents. I was like, what?
Because they change from how they spoke in Connecticut 2 isn't the same how they spoke in Cobra
Yeah,
Kai. But it's an evolution of. I mean, it's an age thing too, right? You don't sound the same when you're
yeah,
in your
yeah.
early teens as opposed to when you're in your 50s. But did you feel like they had to maybe sacrifice or not sacrifice, but like give into a part of what Hollywood demands of an actor like that, an Asian American actor like that, to allow for representation to an audience that has a stereotypical view.
I think that's definitely part of it because like especially some place like Okinawa where a lot of people learn English, have exposure to English because of the heavy U.S. military presence. Like they're not gonna speak with or a lot of them don't speak with such a heavy accent. Some do, yes, but that was a very stereotypical kind of characterization. I felt like, and not like you can have more fluent English than that and still be like from Japan or from Okinawa or wherever. But yeah, I don't like, because like she is Japanese American and I guess he is too, like that they have to kind of, the reason why they have these roles and that they can play them is in part because they have to do this to the way they speak is kind of like, I don't know, like off-putting to me. But yeah, that's what the perception is, right? Like you said.
Well, and this is based on the audience who it's for.
Yeah.
Because you have to think 1985, what's the audience they were thinking of? And it wasn't, the Karate Kid 1, I think, did well in Japan, but they could because that wasn't focused on that culture. It was kind of, that was focused on him learning karate and learning about defending himself and Miyagi stepping in for him. Now it's, let's see all of Miyagi's culture. It'd be interesting to see what reviews of that would have been at that time in Japan. So digging that up, I think, is next. I don't say next to impossible. Probably a lot more difficult. Cool. Anything else you want to say about this?
No, I think that sums it up. I think the Cobra Kai episodes are a major improvement, and I'm just really happy to see this Okinawan representation on TV, if you can call it TV, in a more authentic kind of way, which is really nice.
Yeah, me too. And I hope this maybe inspires like Okinawan kids to be like, why can't we just make a karate thing here?
Yeah, definitely.
Which I don't think has ever been properly done. I think it's probably been done, but we'll see. Well, Micah, thank you so much for coming back on. I would ask how are things going where you're at in Hawaii?
They're okay. I don't know.
How was post hole digging?
How's what?
Post hole digging. PhDing.
Oh, it's coming along. I get to teach my first class this summer.
Awesome.
So I'm excited for that. It's looking at language rights with Pidgin English and Hawaiian in Hawaii, like how it's represented on signs in the community and in media and stuff. And also like the history of like oppression and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Cool. Yeah. I'm excited for you, man. That's awesome. Yeah. I think you could even say to a degree there's something Karate Kid has some, not like with Pidgin English, but there is a way that is interpreted in those movies, how English is kind of chopped up for those characters. So was that you or was that me? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's me. Never mind. Truck outside. It's the Yakuza. They finally caught on to me and my chosen
Sato.
God, Sato. It's the Satoites.
I mean, he's one island away, right? From you.
They can't know that. All right, cool. I think we'll wrap it up there. Micah, thank you so much for being on, and I hope this is the last time we see you on here.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, maybe we can take a crack at Karate Kid 3 and or maybe sometime rewrite Karate Kid 2.
It'd be nice to see a remake, but I don't know how you would do that without Pat
recasting.
Yeah.
Or Pat Morita.
Yeah.
I mean, CGI, right? That's Hollywood's answer to everything these days.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for listening, and don't forget to keep training.